So everybody, welcome to a brand new series that I'm calling Redeem with Me, which I'm going to be doing either twice or 4 times a month, depending on what the schedule allows. But the idea here is to take a lump sum of credit card points, whether it is from a Chase issuer or American Express or Citi, and then kind of put them all together and see what we can do and maximize the amount of value that we can depending on certain airports and location criteria. So in this episode, we're going to be doing my credit card points, but I definitely want to make this as interactive as possible. So if you guys want me to consult with you and put it on the next episode, be sure to leave down below your destination airport as well as your origin airport and the amount of credit card points you have depending on your different issuers, because each one of these will have different transfer partners. But without further ado, let's talk about what I'm going to be putting together for episode 1. Let's get into it. So let's start off with my personal criteria. I'm going to be leaving from Newark, New Jersey, which is a major airport, and flying internationally, and the goal here is to fly into London and then also get a round trip ticket back. But I want to make this a little bit more on the luxury side, right? So I do want to get business class tickets if possible, if the points allow it. And right now I'm working with about 360,000 points in a combination between American Express points as well as Chase Ultimate Reward points. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about the flights themselves. So now there's an abundance of different ways to actually go about starting this. You can either go directly to something like a United Airlines or an Emirates, or go directly to those websites and start doing searches based on the different issuers that you have and the amount of points you have from those credit card issuers. But what I like to do is use a tool called Seats.aero. Now I have zero affiliation with them and I am a paying customer. I pay $10 a month for it, but they do have a free version if you're okay with dealing with certain limitations. But at the end of the day, it works perfectly. I highly recommend trying this out and use this kind of as your mainstay to start off when it comes to searching for some sort of vacation or some sort of travel destination, because it gives you a good starting point of where to go and where to look for the best possible deals. So as I mentioned, I'm flying out of Newark, New Jersey, so I input that under the search tab as my origin airport, and then I want to fly into London Heathrow. So I'm putting LHR as my destination and EWR as my origin airport. And then once you run this search, there's an abundance of different criteria. Like I mentioned, I'm using American Express as well as Chase Ultimate Reward points in order to get this done. So there's actually, if you are a pro member, you can filter based on certain reward programs and even certain airline reward programs. So for this one, I am going to be using American Express as well as Chase. I'm going to check those off and then run my search based on certain dates. Now I want to do this in January, maybe early February. And a big piece of advice for you guys here is to be as flexible as possible with your dates, because some of the best times to fly is probably during the week and things like that. So just be as flexible as you can with your dates in order to get the best value possible. And another awesome tool in here, which is also included in the free version up to 60 days, is that you can input a destination date. So let's say I want to do at the end of January, but then you can add a plus minus variable in here to search all the way out to a year in advance with the pro level and up to 60 days in advance with the free level of it. So what I did here is I put 14 days because I don't want to be too crazy with it and we want to go relatively soon after the new year. And you can see that a couple of options showed up once I press the search button. And then what I like to do here is filter based on the cheapest possible points from a business class standpoint, and you see that a bunch of Aeroplan ones show up. So what I like about this is that it does make it very easy for you to see what the best possible value is in terms of a point redemption when it comes to flying business class via transfer partners that transfer from either American Express or Chase. And on the back of my mind, I'm holding on to the fact that I do want to stay at a Hyatt property, so I'm going to be using my American Express points first, and then saving as much as I can of my Chase points, because Chase is the only one that transfers to Hyatt, and American Express and Chase both transfer to Aeroplan. So I picked a couple dates here. I see that on January 17th, there are 2 business class tickets one way at 60,000 points per person for each business class seat, with about 70 to 80 Canadian dollars in taxes and fees, which does equate to about 50 US dollars, which from a taxes and fees standpoint in a business class flight flying over to London Heathrow, in my opinion, is an absolute steal. Because if you try to do this with Virgin Atlantic through JFK, the taxes and fees are astronomically higher. Although the points are usually a little bit lower at around 45,000, the taxes and fees go anywhere from $500 to $1,000. So I definitely would rather spend an extra 15,000 points versus spending an extra $500. So that will be what we're going to be using to fly out. So that's going to be about 120,000 American Express points, because that does transfer over at a 1-to-1 ratio from American Express, and then as well as about $100 in taxes and fees for 2 tickets. So now we only want to stay anywhere from 3 to 5 days because we don't want to stay too long, so we start to do an input of the same thing but on a reverse basis. So we're flying from London Heathrow back to Newark, and even though there are some Aeroplan ones at 60,000 points again to fly you back, and a little caveat here, even though you are booking with Aeroplan, these are United flights because they're part of the same flight ecosystem, so do keep that in mind that you will not be flying an Aeroplan plane or an Air Canada plane, you'll be flying a United Polaris plane, which at the end of the day, we've done this before, and it's still a great lay-flat business class product. But as you can see on the return flights, even though it is 60,000 American Express points or Chase points, the taxes and fees are closer to 550 Canadian dollars, which equates to about $400 per person, which for me is a little too expensive to really want to bite that bullet. So a little workaround that I was able to do here is that these flights are also available at other major cities that fly directly to Newark, because United is the one running this flight, so I can take a train to CDG, which is Paris, or take a train over to Amsterdam and be able to fly for much cheaper, even if you do bring in the fact that I'm paying for a train ticket. So a train ticket from London Heathrow over to Amsterdam in regular economy is a little under $100, so if you use that math and then add that as part of maybe the taxes and fees over here, you're now dealing with a much smaller taxes and fees price compared to those 500 or 600 Canadian dollars they have to pay per person. So that will greatly bring down the overall cost. So in order for us to fly round trip from Newark to London Heathrow and then from Amsterdam back to Newark, we're looking at about 240,000 either American Express or Chase Ultimate Reward points, and a little less than $400 US in taxes and fees for all 4 of those flights. So in my opinion, that's an absolute steal to be able to fly comfortably for about 7 hours each way, maybe even more on the way back from Amsterdam. So that's what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be taking 240,000 American Express points plus about $400 in taxes and fees. And if you start to look at the dollar value, you're getting a crazy cent per point valuation. Because to fly that same United flight, and this is gonna be a little bit inflated because when you look at one-way tickets and you're very specific, the prices could be a bit inflated. So take that with a grain of salt, but you're looking at about almost $2,000 for a one-way ticket from Newark to London Heathrow via United, so that makes it $4,000 for 2 people, and then you're looking at about $4,370 for a one-way United ticket business class from Amsterdam back home to Newark, New Jersey. So if we start to do some math there, that's about $12,700 in total cash that you would have been paying, which again, I would never actually pay that, so take this with a grain of salt, but at face value, it's about $12,710. Now let's subtract, let's say $500 in taxes and fees that we're gonna pay total, and then if we divide that by the 240,000 points that we're using, that means we're getting a 5 cent per point or a 5.1 cent per point valuation in terms of the money spent, which is great to maximize your value. But now lastly, we have to figure out where we're staying, and London did open up their brand new Park Hyatt location back in October of 2024. You can book the Park Hyatt for 25,000 points per night on a standard night, which is neither non-peak or peak timing, so at 25,000 points for 4 nights, it makes about 100,000 points overall with 0 taxes and fees. So we can transfer over those 100,000 points from Chase over to Hyatt and book those 4 nights with no problems, and again, 0 taxes and fees overall. So again, if we run our same cent per point calculation, you're looking at about $2,332 for the 4-night stay at the Park Hyatt. So instead of spending that cash, we're spending 100,000 Hyatt points or Chase Ultimate Reward points. So if you divide that by 100,000, that gives you a cent per point valuation of 2.32 cents per point, which again is outsized value. Anything above 1.5 is an absolute win in our book. And if you want to do a holistic look at the cent per point valuation, we'll take that same $12,710 plus the $2,332, which gives you a total cash value of $15,042, which is what this would cost if you pay all this out of pocket, which is absolutely absurd, and it really goes to show you the value of the miles and points game. And again, we'll subtract $500 for the taxes and fees from the flight, but if you take those 240,000 points for the flight and those 100,000 points for the hotel, that's 340,000 total points you'll be spending across both bank issuers, giving you a complete cent per point valuation of about 4.3 cents per point. And again, we're getting all this just by spending normally, by getting sign-up bonuses, and it shows you really what the power of miles and points are. Instead of spending $15,000 for an awesome, once-in-a-lifetime luxury kind of vacation with a loved one or whatever the case may be, instead, you're spending the points that you have just sitting kind of in your bank account, whether it is with Chase or American Express, and then you're able to redeem those for this awesome vacation, where out of pocket, you're really only spending $500. And all you have to do is bring money for your food expenses and whatever transportation expenses. But even then, there are ways to really kind of offset the price of even things like Ubers and Lyfts and taxis and even some food stuff, which maybe we'll do in another video. But that is going to be episode 1 of Redeem With Me. Instead of spending $15,000, you're spending 340,000 points and $500 for this epic vacation in the middle of January to go to London and fly out of Amsterdam. So again, let me know in the comment down below what you think. Is this an awesome redemption? Would you use this redemption? Do you think this is a waste of points? Do you think you can get a little bit more of a better cent per point valuation? let me know in the comment down below. And as I mentioned, I'm making this a series and I want to get as involved with you guys as possible. So in the comments below, leave again your origin airport, your destination airport, the amount of points that you have, and which banks you use your points with, and then I'll maybe feature you in the next episode and kind of almost consult with you live to show you exactly what I would do to get the best value and to have a luxurious experience overall. But that'll do it for this video. If you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin, and if you guys want to watch more videos like this one, check one of these right here. And until next time, I'm Fernando. I'll see you guys in London. Peace.